Okay, so this is our second day of working on the Bargue plate and our second stage. We have the envelope. We have the very basic block end shape. And now we're going to continue to carve it out to create the form a little bit more and a little bit more. This is going to take, yesterday's was a really quick one, and today's is going to take a little bit longer, so I want you to be prepared for that. We're essentially going to go through that we're going to create that second one on here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working more from the final product than I am from that second stage. So I'm going to begin to make just make the carving in marks a little bit as we go along. I'm just going to start changing things a little bit. So I see that the ankle curves in. It's not just a straight line from underneath the envelope line, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that. One distance I sort of want to figure out is where exactly that indentation is, and again, comparative measurement. So I can use that length from the intersection of the horizontal and the vertical to the intersection of the back envelope line. We've established that as sort of a constant, and I'm going to use that to figure out about where. Okay, so actually it's 1 essentially where this touches, and like 1 and maybe a third, maybe even closer to a half where it comes in there. So I'm going to just kind of double check that. Actually, that's pretty close. Maybe it can come down just a little bit here. So I'm just beginning to make my next marks, carving in the shape, the contour, the outside edges of the foot here a little bit more. And I'm just paying attention to where things intersect with the envelope lines and where they diverge from them. And I might find myself making changes, like I created this blocky shape here, and I'm actually going to round it out a little bit at this point here. And I might go back and double check my sizing of that, make sure that it's in a good spot, and coming down, creating the shape of the base there. Go slow, draw light. I keep saying that, but the base is actually going to start right at this horizontal line, so I want to make sure that I have that blocked out properly. The heel comes out, it goes back in. The heel bone, the Achilles here, comes in, and that goes up. So now I've got one edge of my contour, my back contour here. And I want you to sort of double check it, look at things again. Compare the negative spaces, these negative shapes between the envelope line and the back of the ankle. And I'm looking at mine, and I feel like these are too big. Like they're too wide, especially this one right here. Look at this, how small that space is. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make that change, just bringing that up a little bit. I make my change, then I erase. I never erase first. If I erase first and then try to make a change, 9 times out of 10, I will just draw over exactly what I did before. And my brain will be like, look, I did it, it's right. But it won't. It'll be just exactly what I had done previously. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller as well. I'm going to check that angle here. Yep, that's good. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this part and I'm going to move on to the next area, which if I just want to move from one side to another, I can come into this interior work, or I can continue on drafting out, carving in these shapes here, which is what I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to move on to this side of the foot, which is, if you'll notice, this comes straight across here. This comes under that intersection line and then up at an angle. And so that's going to change the shape of this kind of a lot here. And then it comes down. And then it has a curve on the interior before coming up to here. So I'm actually going to end up carving out that blocky area quite a bit, actually. And I'm going to erase that line because I don't want it to confuse me later, because it will. I'm going to carve the interior of the ankle. Look how this part of the ankle comes inwards. It's not a really huge angle. It's not very sharp, but it's not straight down. It was straight down, and now, or almost at an angle going the other direction. So I want to bring this in, coming to the line, and then it's going to come back out again. And I'm going to erase that initial line. Then I want to create the shape of the top of the foot, which is a little bit lumpier and bumpier. Kind of comes up, comes down. The interesting thing about drawing the human body, drawing anatomy, and even though we're drawing essentially a broken bit of a statue of a human body, is that it's a series of convex curves. You don't often come across true concave. So even areas where you've got it here where it looks concave, it looks like it depresses inward, it's actually the meeting point of two convex shapes. And so you always kind of want to err on the side of lumpiness and bumpiness when you're working on something organic, especially the human body. Okay, so then coming down to the toes. This is actually going to extend out a little further, I think, this toe region here. So I'm going to bring it down over to here. And then erase, erase. This is going to be the big toe here. And then you'll notice this, hands and feet, toes, digits they're tricky to do. But the easiest thing to do is to always look for the overall lines and shapes of it. So even as we look at it in this one here, you've got a line across here, you've got a line down here, and you can look at this as its own individual shape or its own line to get that more accurate. Now I'm just drawing out the angles that the toes will be, as well as the distancing. I want you to pay attention to the distancing of each one. They are not equal distanced. They're not all the same. And pay attention to this changes in the lines. So this line, these two are closer together than this two, for example. This one is a shape of it's a light curve or a triangular type of line. So I want you to pay attention to those small details as you go along. I feel like that needs to get moved over. As you add more information, you are inevitably going to find areas that you have to shift and change. So don't ever get too settled on something. Don't think, well, that part's done. It's good. I don't have to worry about it. Because as you add more information, they're going to change on you. And it's not going to be, once one thing changes, another thing will shift. Okay. All right, so now I've kind of blocked in the basic contour of the foot, the contour, the outside edges, the outside line, and I've begun some of the interior lines as well. I'm going to continue to refine. I'm going to continue to make these interior lines and kind of go along. These are the shadow shapes. So when we look at this, we see that not only is there a contour line that defines the exterior proportions, but there are interior contours as well, the definitions of these shadow shapes. So if we look at, light and dark, that place in between where they meet, that we can look at it as a line. It's a very, very soft line mostly. Some places it's a little harder, but we want to create that shape, that line right there. So I'm going down on the base right now. Following the edge of the shadow up the back of the heel, paying attention to where it is further away and closer to the edges. Everything is always in relationship with something else. It's never a standalone item or a standalone image. It's always going to exist in relationship. I'm actually feeling like this needs to come down further. I think it's too high up. It's too close to that top envelope line. This is going to be sort of a jagged edge to where the statue of the foot was broken off. Okay. Now, at this point, I have a pretty decent block in, but we're gonna keep going a little bit further, and just continue to refine the little bit of changes here and there. I'm going to look more carefully. So now, at this point, I'm just looking at this final one. I'm going to ignore these entirely from here on out. And I'm going to look at just the small nuances of each individual spot on here. And as I do this, I'm going to start erasing my guidelines. I'm going to erase my envelope lines. Because now at this point, they're just going to get in the way. They're going to be a distraction. So now, this here you know what, actually, let's go ahead and let's leave it at this spot for Wednesday. And then Thursday we're going to pick up on it and we're going to start creating those nuances in form.